This week, we continue our conversation about AI, artificial intelligence, and its presence in music. Last week, we talked about its influence on the marketing side and the business side of music. Today, we'll talk about the production of music. I'm your host, Joey Chou, and this is Beyond the Reefs. Hi, you're listening to Beyond the Reefs, a show produced by Radio Taiwan International. Here we talk about socio-economic issues that are faced by Taiwan and their broader impact around the world beyond the reefs of this island nation. Last week we spoke with Joey Chou, who was the former marketing head of Warner Music Taiwan. Today, as we continue our conversation about music, and more specifically about the production of music with artificial intelligence, joining the show is a music producer who's actively involved in AI music generation. His name is Teddy Duann, and let's have him introduce himself first.
My name is Teddy. I'm a Teddy Duann, like Duann. I used to started a creative agency, like artist management company, since I graduated from high school. And that is when I stepped into the music business. But a few years after, I felt not getting challenged in the industry because there's not much happening in Taipei. So I decided to start my tech company, and that's my first time introducing into the tech stuffs. And I have no understanding in technical technology stuff. So after I failed my first startup, I started to partner with one of my investors' friend who's based in San Francisco. And he's really supportive, and he said we could start something about on-chain, it is a blockchain company. We can do something about on-chain AIGC for music, because that's what their team been working on recently.
So now you do AIGC, which for the uninitiated, and I definitely was one of them, I had to look it up. It's artificial intelligence generated content. What exactly is AIGC? And we're talking about AIGC in music, but I'm sure AIGC has a lot of different ways to present itself, right?
Yeah, since I'm not from the technical side, I can't give it out really detailed on how it works. But basically, we could look at AIGC as a transformation of creators, the character of creators, and how the materials transform in the next decade. Because we used to start our creation from draft, maybe from paper or maybe a DAW, but now we can immediately get a sample or maybe a short demo from AI. So it's like an ideation tool for musicians to figure out what they want and how they can produce and improve their work.
Okay. What is the opposite, or what was the old way of creating? Like, instead of AIGC, how did people use to create music?
We just gather together in a random afternoon, pick up our guitar and we play. And we record maybe with a phone or maybe with a computer. And then we go through all the demos and all the TED Talks, and we say, and we will find out this one is pretty good. Let's go deeper on this one.
Mm-hmm. Which already, you can tell, that's a very highly inefficient way to do anything, really, right? Nowadays you don't have to spend a whole afternoon, maybe even multiple afternoons, random beer here or there, and then getting highly inefficient to create sound together. So I guess let's get into the bulk of our conversation, because a while ago, it used to be UGC. If you're doing covers or if you're sampling, it's users generating this content. But a little while ago, so AI was literally generating like an AI Rihanna singing a Beyonce song, or AI Kanye West doing Hey There Delilah. Now, these are likely songs that these artists would have never sung, but obviously fans are curious. Hey, what if Kanye West sang Hey There Delilah? So these are, relatively harmless, because you just want to find out what if your artist sampled this or covered this track. But then when Ghostwriter, this anonymous online producer, used the melodic and vocal likeliness of Drake and The Weeknd to create a song called Heart on My Sleeve, and in many ways almost, kind of pretending like this is a song collaborated between the two, a certain gray area was then crossed. And what exactly was the problem with that? And why did it become so controversial?
Actually doesn't know the Rihanna and the Kanye West case, but I thought the Heart on My Sleeve, that track came out before these two cases, right?
It might have, yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, the whole music business is pretty concerned about like we have our catalogs, and the catalog worth a lot, and how come like a random guy on the internet can use our data and train and create a song, publish on YouTube, and get millions of views. This is what we're being concerned about.
Yeah.
So there's a really big conflict because first we don't know who the guy is, and maybe he's making profit from YouTube, but the profit should be shared with the copyright holders, maybe the record company or the singer, the creator. I think the biggest difference comes from whether or not ownership of the content is clearly defined.
Okay, so I think the biggest problem is the fact that he or she, this person was making profits. Like if you just made a track and threw it onto SoundCloud and for people to listen to it for kicks and giggles, that would not have been such a big problem. But the problem was that you have millions of views and YouTube is going to pay you for this. You need to share the royalties or the licensing fees with the artists.
Yeah, and the song is actually pretty good.
That's it. That's also the problem. The song is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
The fans kind of love it but hate it at the same time, right? It's like, oh man, that would have been really cool if these two worked together. The two of the greatest Canadian artists, like work together on a track. But at the same time, they're like, oh man, but this is not right because they need to be paid royalty. And then there's a third thought that thinking like, but The Weeknd and Drake do they really need money?
Yeah, I don't think fans will think about this much.
Yeah.
But there's actually a platform, and it started off from a stage, and I forgot the name, but they actually do stuff like this. So they train tons of models, like Michael Jackson models, the Weeknd models, but how to say that? They don't use their actual name, like maybe they use the Beatles, not the Beatles, and they use their model to sing tons of different songs, and they publish on their own platform, like streaming platform. It's an AI music only platform.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of cool but scary at the same time because sometimes I watch like YouTube shorts and then there's, for example, interview that Joe Rogan did, and he said some crazy, ludicrous stuff, and then you realize that, wait, hold on a second, this is AI generated, and sometimes it's starting to get difficult to tell the difference sometimes. So, okay, since you mentioned the Beatles, just recently, Sir Paul McCartney used recordings of his incomplete sessions. There's a lot of these. A lot of artists before they passed on, they maybe recorded the beginning or just a little bit of the song. So he said he recorded something with his ex-pal, former Beatles member, late John Lennon, and he finished the song now with the help of AI. In your opinion, how might that be done, and ethically, how do you find this headline?
I'm a Beatles fan, so I really hope Sir Paul McCartney can like finish tons of like Beatles, unfinished Beatles album. There's no like new song from Beatles from now on. But for us like actual fans, we will be a little bit disappointing because we knew it isn't created by John Lennon himself, and we could never see anyone perform the song in live. But when technology revolution starts, it comes with a lot of conflicts, and we don't know what's gonna happen to afterwards and how we can achieve or we can solve the problems. But at the end, the techs are tools, so it depends on how we use it and how we cooperate, collab with the artists, collab with the copyright holders or with the users.
I think as fans, this piece of news came also quite sensitive because there was a period of time when Paul McCartney and John Lennon did not agree on music.
Yeah.
So we wonder, if John Lennon's still alive, would he agree that this song should be made? You know what I mean?
But I don't want to say what I'm going to. but it's actually not his business now.
Well, true.
His family can come out and say, you can't do that, but it depends. Maybe they're happy to hear his voice again and new tracks of Beatles. We don't know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It really depends on where who has ownership of the music, who has the state of the whole recording, and that's sort of what was happening with Taylor Swift, right? Like she did not like the way people were using her music, so she found a way to take it into her own hands. So that's interesting. So like this problem about licensing, ownership of music, royalty, it happened without AI. So it's going to continue to happen even with AI, right? So like you said, of course, like with technological advances comes ethical issues, but ethical issues were always in the picture. It's not like AI created this issue.
So in this case, we could look into like how we could license our voice to in the future. So maybe every artist should the company or maybe the production company will have to sign a contract with the artist and saying you license your voice till maybe 20 years or maybe till when you're dead something, or maybe after you're dead we can still use your voice to produce songs, because they still have fans have the needs to want to hear the artist's voice to sing new songs, but the songs doesn't have stories or anything contains in it. It is just some random songs generated by AI, but uses their voices.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. If you're a good singer-songwriter, I'm sure you would hate that AI is just simply using your voice, because what was always special about you was your stories, right? So I think you hit the nail on the head there. Since you mentioned about new regulations, perhaps, how is Taiwan doing with new regulations? How's the states, the U.S. doing with regulations or worldwide?
So like in the past, Taiwan had like we follow the footsteps of the states in every kind of cases, not just intellectual property or like only in music industry. But I heard of it will not be regulated about training AI model with copyright songs. So like currently, if you want to develop your own AI model, like music generation AI model, you don't have to pay for training. You don't have to pay for the data. But like if you're gonna monetize it and you're gonna publish songs, or I don't know how people are gonna do this, but when you're about to making money, then you will have to pay. But there's also a problem. Like for us, the music like record label, we don't know like how many songs or which songs you actually use to train your AI model, and the tech company won't let us know. So if they're monetizing, they make tons of cash from like providing AIGC music service. It's hard for us to ask them to pay us.
That's interesting.
Because how do we define if this 30-second clips are actually trained by maybe the Beatles? I mean, 10% from the Beatles, 5% from Michael Jackson, and 15% from a random guy. You don't know. It's really hard to track like how the content is generated, and it's not getting a lot of attention from both the tech and the music industry, because from the tech side, we don't want to pay that. It might cost a lot, maybe 30 to 40% of our profit. For the music labels, we got no idea of what's happening inside the AI model, so we don't know how we could ask or how we could analyze or how we could like track the training process.
That's very interesting. You're right. We don't know how much of every artist is put into a single track or just a few seconds of music. So how do you charge for it? But what about people who are creating music with AI? Like you kind of mentioned earlier as we were talking about AIGC, can you ever create AI generated content and be completely creative and innovative without using, someone else's work and be, I guess, one of a kind, be unique? Like, is it possible? Like, maybe a line of code that you write and only you know about to create a certain sound? Is that possible?
I'm really not sure about this because there's a lot of like music AI tools now, and you could use it to create your music, and maybe they can suggest or give you advice about, oh, maybe you can put this note after that one, or maybe you can use this chord progression because it sounds like this is a sad vibe, it's a rainy vibe, we don't know. But in this case, it helps artists to get the idea. So at the end, the song is actually created by the artists themselves. The AI part is only giving them advices. And it also works on maybe mixing or mastering the music.
Okay.
At this point, I want to talk about what we've been working on because it kind of related to like one of a kind prompt idea. Because we know we're building a service so everyone can put on their models. So and in our design, we use blockchain. So every prompt can only be used once. So for example, we put on a Michael Jackson model, and each user can prompt and generate their clips, their music clips, but each prompt can only be used once. So it kind of brings scarcity into AIGC.
Interesting. Okay.
What we are doing is more about having people to develop their own models, and they can put it on our platform to monetize it.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah. So do you have any final thoughts about the future of AI music?
I'm pretty negative about this topic because when iPhone came out, when TikTok came out, the current generation doesn't really like it, but the younger one, they don't know how it's gonna affect their lives, and they will really get into this kind of new stuff. So maybe 10 years after, when AI became really popular and it can work out really really well, creating great music, you don't even figure out it's created by AI. Then how can like human creators compete with AI? And for the next generation, if the song is created by AI or created by human, it doesn't matter at all. It's a music.
Yeah.
Because most of the people on earth, we don't create music, but we hope music happens. So as long we can listen to some of like drums and guitar with our earphone, then it works for us.
Yeah, the next generation will probably not get to hear a whole lot of original work. Like a lot of people are basically writing very similar stuff, right? Across the board. Like everyone is sort of singing in the same 4 melodic chords and singing about very, very simple lyrics. And I hear that there's a way for AI to tailor music to your liking. So for example, if you listen to music from Taylor Swift, but you don't like Taylor Swift's country folk kind of delivery, so you want AI to spin you the Taylor Swift song that sounds like, say, hip hop or trap, you can start doing that, and that really changes things, doesn't it?
Yeah, this one, I mean, we gotta work hard, because AI gotta replace a lot of mid to low end creators. And when short videos come out, consumers they are gradually compromised on the okay content. So we gotta do more than okay content, and we gotta spend more time to engage with the users, because music itself won't be the only product you could ship to your fans.
Like you said, music is not the only product that musicians bring to their fans, because there's also the persona, there's the energy, there's the collective sense of belonging that you can definitely feel when you go to live concerts. And that's something that AI has yet to deliver. And that does it for our 2-part series about music and artificial intelligence. I've been Joey, and this is Beyond the Reefs.